Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Faction Focus. I am joined today by Tetrarch of Ultramar, Adam Camilleri, and we have a bumper episode for you today. We are looking at the Space Marines.
Yes, we are, and of course this is going to be quite a deluge of detachments for those at home, because we are going to be running through each and every single Space Marine variety.
Yes, we have obviously your Codex Standard Space Marines. We've also got Black Templars, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves.
All the colours.
And that's all of them.
It's quite a bit. It's enough. And we have 3 detachments for each and every single one, so strap in. There's going to be a lot to discuss.
Right, well, how do we think Space Marines are going to fare in the new edition?
As well as they always have, mate. They always hit the ground running, very much have all the options that you could ever want as far as miniatures and range, so they're going to be very agile when it comes to playing and adopting the new mission structures, in addition to interacting with the new terrain rules. I think they're going to be doing extremely well, and I think just about every single Space Marine variety has something really exciting to work with.
Yeah, obviously lots of tools already and some new tools with the new detachments, so let's dive in and take a look at the standard Codex Space Marine detachments first. We're going to kick off with Fulgaris Task Force, and this is a detachment that leans into land speeders, and obviously we've got a brand new land speeder which is coming with the Armageddon box. We're going to see lots of those on the table soon, and this gives you some tools to use it. Absolutely.
So this will affect all your land speeder varieties, that being the Storm speeder varieties, the Hail Strike, the Hammer Strike, and the Thunder Strike, in addition to the brand new land speeder as you just discussed. They will get the ability to arrive from reserve turn 1. And of course, 3 of those, that being the Storm Street varieties, all come with Deep Strike inherently, and then the brand new one will of course be able to arrive from what we would have called Strategic Reserve.
Yeah, so I mean that's quite a powerful ability, isn't it? Like, your opponent's going to have to be very careful about deploying their units, knowing that you could have these speeders showing up. Most of them are relatively lightly armored, but they've got a lot of firepower. They've got a tank's worth of firepower.
Exactly right, and the speed now being able to be applied turn 1. A lot of the time, your opponent, savvy pre-measuring, can stay out of those lines a lot easier. But then, if they want to stay out of those lines, they're just yours for the taking. You can just ingress straight into those positions, and then have the long angles, the short angles covered, and then progress your board state as you see fit.
And even if you don't actually get any shots off on that first turn, just the existence of a first turn deep strike and attack changes the nature of those early turns.
Well, all the Storm Speed varieties, and of course the brand new speeder could possibly be doing something similar, you'll have to wait and see, come with very powerful buffing abilities for the rest of your army, ignoring cover, additional AP to any other thing that fires against a target that they have essentially marked after shooting, or the Thunder Strike giving the rest of your army +1 to wound against a said target, and being able to apply those from turn 1 from with perfect positioning and information, I think is quite a powerful ability.
Yeah, well, it's not just the detachment ability, there's also some enhancements and some stratagems. So we'll look at one of the enhancements, which is Bellicose Weapon Spirits, and this is a further boost to the lethality of some of those units, giving them effectively rerolling to damage and rerolling for the number of attacks that a weapon has.
Yeah, so this finds a home on both the Hammer Strike and the Thunder Strike really well. Of course, both of them packing D6 plus damage. The Melter variety, of course, on the Hammer Strike, and then the Las Cannon variety on the Thunder Strike. So giving that rerolling damage and then rolls to determine the amount of shots as well, I think there's a pretty good home.
And of course, the new speeder also has a multi-melter with a random damage and a heavy flamer if you want it. So there's a nice combo there as well. So any of those are great options
and for those who are as long in the tooth as you and I are, Eddie, we remember this day. We remember this chassis.
You have 9.
I may have 9
of the classic land speeders flying around home somewhere, don't you?
Yes, I do.
So there's also some stratagems in there. One of them is called Reactive Evasion. This is effectively a chance to move out of sequence.
Yes, so this is 1 command point. Your opponent's movement phase when an enemy unit ends a move within 8 inches of an unengaged speeder unit. So any of the ones we reeled off, you'll get to make a reactive move of D3 plus 3 and keep those speeders ahead of your opponent. Really good ability.
Useful for a bunch of reasons, right? You can pull them out of charge range, you can pull them out of line of sight. A lot of those speeders, especially with things like the heavy flamers, multi-melters, that sort of thing, are going to be quite close to the enemy to get
for sure
their maximum damage off. So being able to kind of pull back out of trouble is useful.
In that, it sets a bunch of baits and traps for your opponent as well, arriving from reserve on turn 1 if you wish, in order to give your opponent a something they need to attack, or else it's going to be generating value. And then it was a trap all along. You came out, it moved away. Ha ha ha! Speeder tactics.
Cool. Well, moving on to the next of our detachments. This one is a kind of returning detachment with some changes. This is the Librarius Conclave, and this works around the Psychers in your army, the Librarians, bolstering the units that they join.
Correct. There is a big detachment rule here, as you would expect. Not too dissimilar from some similar rules you've seen in previous varieties, but at the start of the battle round, select one of the following Psychic Discipline abilities. Friendly Adeptus Stati Psychic units have this ability until the end of the battle round, and they are +2 move, reroll ones to hit or reroll ones to wound. That is shooting and fighting, very, very powerful. You can increase the AP of your weaponry when you're targeting something within 12 inches. That is only ranged attacks. And then the ranged attacks that target you are -1 strength, which can just be -1 to wound if you are, taking appropriate units into appropriate enemy units. And then the last one is this unit's attacks can ignore modifiers to ballistic skill, weapon skill, and hit rolls, which is, as we've said, kind of
that's
just
big, isn't it, this edition? Because that's cover, effectively.
It's ignoring cover, which makes a lot of sense for psychic attacks to have. But this is very much a pick your poison detachment ability.
And this really leans into an army if you've taken multiple librarians and you've kind of got, I've got my Terminators with their librarian, I've got my Intercessors with their librarian.
Yes.
If you've got 3 or 4 librarians, this almost is a given, right?
Correct. You can also take your Phobos librarian with your Incursors or Infiltrators as well. Incursors are quite a great utility unit at the moment, and just putting a Phobos librarian in there really enhances a lot of what they do as well.
Yeah. Speaking of enhancements, there's a bunch of enhancements you can give to the librarians as well. These are effectively upgrades for your librarians, and you've got a whole suite of different things you can do with them.
Correct. So this detachment doesn't have stratagems. In lieu of that, you get 5 enhancements, where you really get to tool your army to be fit for whatever you want that unit to be. You almost pick your enhancement for each one of your librarians. If you're taking 3 or so, you will want to take 3 of these.
They're really good.
And make sure you really maximize. So, for example, obscurification, if I said that correctly, is for Psycho Model only. The enemy units cannot target you with snap shooting. And then if the telepathy discipline is active, that being the one where you are -1 to incoming strength when being targeted by range, you have -3 to detection range, which really doubles down on some of the Phobos shenanigans I was mentioning, in addition to just meaning that your unit might not be able to be shot at all.
So the snap shooting, that covers Overwatch.
Correct.
That's like the main thing. There's a few other rules in the game that allow snap shooting as well, but mainly that means your unit can't be overwatched.
Correct. Really, really good.
You've also got one called Temporal Corridor there, which is a very useful ability, which is effectively you can put your unit back into strategic reserves and gain deep strike.
Correct. And the one I really like on this is to take a Phobos Librarian with just 5 infiltrators, because of course they already infiltrate, they have lone operative, and then if you are removing that unit, placing it back onto the table and off the table, you can always keep them one step ahead of your opponent.
Great for catching objectives, doing actions, just getting in the way.
Just being really frustrating to your opponent, being like, I want to stop this unit scoring points, and you're like, no! Bounce it off the table again. And this one has the rider in addition, that if the telekinesis discipline is active, which is the same one I just mentioned, the -1 incoming strength in shooting, you will get deep strike on that unit in addition.
Cool. Well, that's the Librarius Conclave. Last up of the standard Codex compliant detachments is Subversion Assets. This is a detachment that works with your Phobos and your Scout Squads.
Now, this is the one I really think will see day one play, almost immediate adoption into day one play. Admittedly, depending on how many detachment points are available on the prospective builds people are wanting to work with. But this one slots right in because Phobos units and Scout Squads are already the premium utility pieces being taken by Space Marine generals all over the world. So you already likely have 2, sometimes to 4 units of that will trigger all of these abilities in your, day one army. So this one to me makes the most sense. If people wanted to pick one up and just try the new rules, work into the new systems, this is where I'd experiment first.
Yeah, and the ability for this one interacts with detection range, basically. It makes your Phobos and Scout units harder to see. Oh, you pick an enemy unit and then they become easier for the rest of your army to target. Right. So those units you've already kind of infiltrated forwards, which are exactly where you want them to be in the middle of the battlefield, can highlight incoming enemy units, and the rest of your units can target them, even if they are hidden. So 2 of the ones I've mentioned previously, of course, you have Infiltrators, which is going to be fantastic in this detachment, but also Incursors already give your army +1 to hit against something that they have shot. They will give you +1 to hit for the remainder of your army versus that target. And then in addition to that, they'll be giving it this ability where they can shoot at one target and give you +1 to hit, and then spot another one and make them able to be shot at all because you've increased the detection range. And so it can really change the entire fundamentals of your army and take a unit that wasn't going to interact with the opponent to having a full broadside. And I think this is also really good on Scout Squads, of course, because then we move from the table, replaced back on the table at will at the end of your opponent's turn. And then they're also going to have perfect placement to get this 12-inch ability and to increase that detection range. You've also got some great enhancements and some stratagems in there too. One of them is Shroud Field. That's an enhancement you can give to a Phobos model. Basically gives it lone operative and stealth. Exactly right. Says it on the tin.
Pretty good. Lovely place to start.
But it also means basically one of your Phobos characters can all of a sudden do the function of that whole unit, right? So he still gets all of the detachment rules. You can still sight enemy units for the rest of your army, and you are lone up, so hard to kind of pick out and
correct. And of course, we have lieutenants with combi weapons roaming around there. That's been one of the most taken units in Space Marine armies this entire edition. And then that one already has lone operators, so you could have essentially a second one of those if you pleased. You could take a captain in Phobos armor or a lieutenant, and then give them this ability, and then they would function just as well as your scouts, your infiltrators, your incursors, etc.
Yeah, and then the stratagem for these guys is we're going to look at is strike from the shadows, which effectively is your unit, your Phobos unit or your scout squad can shoot and still remain hidden.
This is big. So remember what I said about the incursors who want to be up in the mix, generating you points and value, and you want to get as many turns out of them as possible because they're going to be giving you +1 to hit for the rest of your army. Well, what if by shooting and giving your army +1 to hit, they remained uninteractable for one command point? This is great for just meaning, because most of the time if you wanted to use an ability like that, giving your whole army +1 to hit, you would lose the unit in exchange for giving out that ability. And this just says, no, I'm going to keep my incursors, thank you very much.
So it's a great way to keep those units, which we've already described can be very useful, just alive for another turn longer.
Absolutely right.
Brilliant. Well, that is the Codex Compliant Space Marines. Next up, we have Black Templars. Next up we have Black Templars. We're starting off with Marshall's Household. This is a detachment all about Sword Brethren.
Some of the finest miniatures in the Black Templars range, and your Sword Brethren squads in this detachment will get +1 objective control.
That's immediately quite useful. It means you can use them as your unit to push enemies off objectives, right? Nice
and clean, and if you can't kill them, at least you'll take away the objective. Well, what is really good about this is that one of the issues Sword Brethren will have is that if you have what I usually call it like the fist in the screen on an objective, like you have one squad holding the objective and then another one screening that objective. If you can't connect with the one on the inside, you'll never get the objective off them. And so this allows you to have enough objective control to contest or hold that objective if you've killed your way through the screen.
And it means you could charge into something like a big unit of 20 Orc boys.
Correct.
You could kill half of them and then push the objective control in your favor.
Exactly right.
Obviously, there's some enhancements and some stratagems in the mix as well. One of the enhancements is a unit upgrade, which is called Inheritors of Sigismund. You can give that to a whole Sword Brethren squad, and it gives them fights first.
Yes, now, a lot has been said about fights first. Is it better? Is it worse than it previously was? Of course, the change here is that the fights first reaction will default to the active player, the person whose player turn that it is. As some people are talking about how this diminishes fights first. I don't think it does as much as people think. I think fights first holds its place as a very powerful ability, and on Sword Brethren, it is fearsome.
And especially if you're going to be charging units into melees that you think are going to be a slogfest, basically, that are going to go on for multiple turns.
Yep.
Actually, you're quite happy with your Sword Brethren unit with high OC for having a continued fight where you keep control of the objective, you keep just chomping through any enemies that come to you. If you're already engaged in a fight, you get to go first again in your next turn, right?
Yeah, it makes you a lot more resilient in the attrition war. If you get drawn into, there's a lot of armies out there that love that attrition, that grind. Death Guard comes to mind, and Fights First still holds a lot of value in those matchups.
And then the obviously some stratagems in there as well for them. One of them, Slayer of Abominations. This is a fights phase stratagem, and it gives you +2 strength against the big stuff.
This is big. So 1 CP in the fight phase when a friendly Sword Brethren squad is selected to fight. Units melee attacks when they're targeting a monster or vehicle will have +2 strength. Now the reason this is big is because that army ability, as printed in the Black Templars Codex, remains, and one of those is the ability to have +1 to wound if the toughness of the target is higher than your strength. And then so that means for the vast majority of your profiles that are strength 5 or better in melee, anything that is above 10 or above, you're wounding on 5s. +2 strength automatically brings that back to, you will wound everything in the game on a 4+. Just 1 CP, anything on the game is wounded on at least a 4+, if not better. And it gets you to a bunch of brilliant breakpoints, getting to strength 7, 8, 9 as well.
And because it's on the unit as well, it will also apply to characters in the unit.
Yes.
So if you've got a Marshal or a Emperor Champion, that sort of thing in the mix, they also get that bonus, which is pretty tasty.
Yeah, very tasty.
Speaking of characters, flawless segue into the next section.
We have one more stratagem to do there. Apologies. Too keen. Love it.
There's another one. There's another strategy.
Yes, there is.
Blade of Detestation. What does that do?
So this is one command point in your charge phase. When a friendly Sword Brethren squad ends a charge move, you will do a handful of mortal wounds on the charge, almost a pseudo explosive or grenade-like ability. So select one enemy unit engaged with your unit and roll a d6 for each model in your unit that is engaged with that enemy unit on a 4+, 1 mortal wound up to 6.
Old school Hammer of Wrath, basically.
It is, and considering you can use explosives on the way in as well, and then you have insurance once you get there to punch up into those bigger units with the +2 strength, all of a sudden a Sword Brethren unit can now flip the objectives, hold fights first, and combat some of the biggest, scariest things in the game much more effectively.
Jump out a tank, throw some grenades, charge a monster, kill a monster, kill the unit, do it all.
Do it all, baby.
Love it. Next up, we have Wrathful Procession. This is a detachment about chaplains. Chaplains obviously have a cool place in the Black Templars. You don't tend to leave your chapter keep without them.
Correct. Well, they don't
what does this do for you?
They don't let you leave without them. So I misread this when I read the first time, because of course chaplains come with a Rosarius. It's been, we've got 30, 40 years of them having that Rosarius and having that 4-up invulnerable save. When I read this the first time, I read it as chaplain units get a 5-up invulnerable save against range attacks. And I'm like, what? They already have a 4-up. But it's the unit. They give it to their unit. Chaplain units will get a 5-up invulnerable save against ranged attacks, which is actually a game changer, because as it sits right now, some of the bigger, Crusader squads, 20 model units, and they have a varied armor save in there. There's some 4-up armor saves, some 3-up armor saves. Then just giving them all a 5-up invulnerable save, it's a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, it makes them very durable, right? Like all of a sudden your anti-tank weaponry are bouncing off effectively neophytes.
Yeah.
Which is pretty tasty. Obviously there's some enhancements and some stratagems in the mix as well. One of them is Adaptable Executioner, and this is for the Excoriator.
Execrator, yeah. We all say it a little different. Judicia, tomato.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Yeah. When they're selected to fight, this model as melee attacks have Cleave 1 or Precision. And we already talked about Cleave and how fundamental that is going to be to shaking up the game. So Cleave 1 is Blast in combat. So for every 5 models in the unit that you are targeting attacks with, you'll get an additional attack. And what's the example we've been coming up with? 20 boys?
Yeah, so going to 20 boys, you get an extra 4 attacks.
4.
Which is pretty tasty.
4 attacks.
Yeah. And those are good solid attacks as well. They're multi-damage, high-strength attacks.
Yeah. Strength 6, multiple damage. Absolutely fantastic. Or they can have precision as well. So you've got a tool for each occasion. If you want to go into an elite squad, try and get rid of their characters, maybe a Chaos Lord and unit are chosen. Or if you're going into hordes, you're playing against, a blob of 25, 27 guardsmen because they've got a command squad and an Ogren bodyguard, you just start wailing even
It's particularly good if you've charged in with something like a big Crusader squad and they've got a model that's making the unit harder to kill. So if you've got something that's giving it Feel No Pain or Invulnerable Save or something like that, then you remove that, and all of a sudden future attempts to hit that unit is going to be much easier. They've got some stratagems as well. They've got Right of Preferred Wrath. This is a thing that you can give to a chaplain unit, and it gives the whole unit +1 strength.
This is amazing. As previously stated about the +2 strength for the Sword Brethren, which had the caveat of being into certain units, this is a blanket chaplain unit giving it to everything. And of course, we're talking about possibly running this with 20 Crusaders, and giving them all +1 strength is an amazing ability. They're the High Marshal of the Black Templars himself, High Marshal Helbrecht, gives +1 strength as one of his abilities, and to the unit that he joins, and just having one command point to copy that ability is actually quite premium.
Yeah, that's great. And then last up, we have a detachment that works off arguably the most iconic model in the Black Templars army. This is a detachment just about the Emperor's Champion.
Correct. It is literally all about the numero uno, the one of Emperor's Champion. When a friendly Emperor's Champion is selected to fight, that model's melee attacks can reroll one reroll to hit, and 1 reroll to wound.
Nice.
But it doesn't stop there, because at the start of the first battle round, you can select up to 3 of the following abilities for friendly Emperor's Champion units to have. And these abilities are quite fundamental, and of course, you'll get to pick them at the start of the game. You can have Devastating Wounds once per battle. When you engage with a character unit, you can have -3 to the detection range of the Emperor's Champion.
Nice.
You can also have +2 attacks. Probably going to pick that. Going to pick that one. You can also have, when you're targeted by melee attacks, those melee attacks against you have hazardous, which I think is quite interesting on various miniatures. And you'll know this when you look at your opponent's army, which ones are really good here. Then next one is Omen of Sacred Intervention. When you target this unit with Heroic Intervention stratagem, it's at -1 command point. And then lastly, the Harbinger of Judgment. When an enemy unit, excluding a monster or vehicle, engaged with the model, is selected to fall back, roll a d6, and on just a 2+, they will take d6 mortal wounds, sir.
So, I mean, there's some great combos in there, right? But the thing that's really exciting about this is you get to pick it after knowing what your opponent's army is. So these are all great abilities, but you can look across the battlefield and go, actually, I'm up against loads of Hormagaunts. I think I'm
Yes.
going to be in protracted melees. I'm going to give you hazardous when you try and hit me in combat. Or you can go, actually, I'm fighting against a Tau gun line. I don't think they're going to hit me in combat very much, but they are going to try and shoot me. So I'm going to have detection range. That's the thing I'm going to go for.
Yep.
So this is a really flexible detachment. And I think what's fun about it is that this is the sort of detachment you could never have had in a previous edition.
Correct.
Because this leans entirely into one model in your army, but now because you can bolt it onto an existing force,
Exactly.
you can have some other cool stuff like Sword Brethren or Chaplains or whatever else, and you can have this detachment that bolts on and makes your Emperor's Champion hit even harder.
What I love about this is that I am a Black Templars player, and I play Black Templars all the time. I can just play a fundamental, good, strong Black Templars list, and then have a super version of one of my favorite models in the entire game. And
I think
that brings me so much joy.
And he's one of those models that like you get the whole army because you're like, this guy's cool.
Yes,
Like the lore is cool, the model is cool, the
Yep.
concept is cool. I want this guy to be great, and this just makes him cooler.
So everything I just mentioned there, the pick 3 abilities, that is the enhancement for this detachment. This detachment doesn't come with stratagems, of course it's functioning around a single model. The rider to that enhancement is that it does not cost you taking any further enhancements. So this lets you take this one in addition to your usual.
Yeah, so you can still have stuff for your marshals and
Exactly
your
right.
lieutenants or whatever
Exactly right.
Great
Yeah,
stuff.
that's the Templars.
Awesome. That's the Black Templars. Next up, we have the Space Wolves. Next up, we have the Space Wolves. 3 detachments to go through. The first of them, Champions of Fenris. This is a returning detachment. Adam, what does it do?
This is all about your infantry characters and allowing them to do one of the core fundamental ideologies of Space Wolves and bring that back to the fore. As one of the constant ideologies I have about Space Wolves is countercharge. And that it was a fundamental rule that they had for many editions in the past, and now it's coming back.
Yeah, so one of the things that's worth saying is that this detachment lets you countercharge almost a standard, but countercharge as an ability has changed.
Yes.
It's more useful than it used to be. Previously, you could only countercharge into things that had charged. In the new edition, you can countercharge into any enemy unit.
Within 6 inches.
Within 6.
Yeah, within 6 inches. This is so fundamental for defending objectives and for maintaining your scoring potential in the game. And the fact that what this allows you to do is to use those 2 versions, either one of those for one less, regardless of if you use this stratagem already. So I'll just read it out verbatim. Once per battle round per unit, you can target this unit with the heroic intervention stratagem, regardless of any other uses of that stratagem this phase. If you do so, that unit does not prevent any other uses of that stratagem on other units this phase. So that is insanely powerful. That is really, really, really big. And just telling your opponent that you can't just walk onto my objectives. You can't just willy-nilly screen my army. It's essentially adding the effects of a surge move psychologically to your opponent when they're trying to pressure you. They have to consider, if I go within 6 inches, they're going to charge me. And so you get to position yourself knowing your opponent has to stay outside 6 inches.
Yeah,
They have to do
so
this.
for example, you could have a Space Wolf unit on an objective, something like Tau Fire Warrior unit, piles out of their Devilfish, opens fire on your unit. If any of your units are still alive on that objective, you can just pile in the
Straight
combat phase, which is
in.
not what they want to happen.
No, not
so
at all.
if you pile out and try and kill a Space Wolf unit, you kind of have to kill them all, or they're going to be in combat with you in your own combat phase.
And of course, you do pay the command points for this ability, but it's an extremely powerful ability. It's such a strong forward-facing deterrent to your opponent's plans. They're gonna have to change how they play into you because of this ability. And those are some of the ones that I find the most powerful.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think they've also got a bunch of enhancements and stratagems in the mix. You've got one called Giant Among Giants. This is a way to make one of your Space Wolf characters even tougher and harder, right?
Yeah, so one infantry model will get +2 wounds, +1 strength. Now, the plus wounds is quite key here because you can take something, like a Gravis Captain who has half incoming damage and add 2 wounds to that chassis. And that guy is a tank, as it can absorb
Just
a
walk
whole...
around by himself, yeah.
By himself, just ingress into your opponent's backfield and just be a problem. Be a menace, sir. Off you go. I think it's a fantastic ability.
You've also got a stratagem there called Stalk Between Worlds that allows a unit with an infantry character to gain stealth.
Yes, so this is 1 command point for reactively a infantry character unit getting stealth. And seeing as, cover gives a similar effect to it. So this can be when you have, let's say, pushed forward, you've heroically intervened out into the open to
You've had to commit effectively.
Commit something, you can still get that bonus and a bit of resilience.
Cool. Well, next up we've got Legends of Saga and Song. This is a detachment that works with your Terminators, and Space Wolf Terminators a very powerful unit in the game right now. This only makes them better.
Some of the best Terminators in the game are possibly the best melee Terminator varieties in the game. This will just simply give them +1 charge to all your Terminator varieties.
Yeah, so this is... You usually deep striking Terminators in.
Yep.
So it makes the thing that they're trying to do anyway, which is dropping in, charging, all the more reliable.
And especially the rapid ingress threat as well. Only, when you rapid ingress, it's 8 inches away, or 9 inches away now. And then when you move forward from there, you're just going to get more and more value in trying to connect even easier.
You've got some great enhancements and stratagems as well. The enhancement we're going to look at is called Fierce Example. Gives a unit of Wolfguard Terminators +1 toughness.
Yes, this doesn't need to be attached to a character. This can just be on a lone unit of Terminators. +1 toughness is a brilliant breakpoint. Of course, Space Wolf Terminators already have -1 to wound. His strength is higher than toughness, and this takes that to a new breakpoint.
Yeah, so it just makes them even harder to kill. This is probably going to help them against some of the small arms fire. One of the ways you take them down, right, is just lots and lots of hits at low APs. This can potentially take them past certain breakpoints.
Well, yeah, all the toughness 3, strength 3 attacks are now going to win them on 6s, and then the 5s to 5, strength 5 to winning on 5s. So it really works against the low to middle bracket of
your heavy bolters and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly right.
Great. And then the stratagem we've got for these guys is Wings of the Blizzard, and basically allows that Terminator unit, once they've dropped in, they've made that charge because they get the +1 charge, they've killed the enemy unit, they can then pull back into reserve.
So usually I would say, this kind of ability is, it's a good utility thing. It's not something I would always usually want to do on a Terminator unit, much rather like this on a utility unit. But fundamentally here, within the scope of Space Wolf Terminators, melee Terminators, exclusively I think this is a very powerful ability when it's attached to Terminators. Because when I play against Space Wolf Terminators, I usually let them hit something, and then I run away. And then they have to walk at me while I'm running away faster than they can catch me.
Fastest, for sure.
But this lets you one command point, bring them back up, put them back down right in front of your opponent, and make them a problem again.
Yeah, especially if they're such a tough unit, right? You can use this as a mobile roadblock to get in the way of whatever you want to be stopping.
Spot on.
And you need half an army to fire at them before this unit goes down.
Yeah, exactly right.
Great stuff. And then last up, we've got Veterans of the Fang. This is a detachment that works with one of the iconic units of the Space Wolves, Grey Hunters. It's a unit that I think Space Wolf players love, but we haven't seen a lot of play recently, and this is going to help them out.
This detachment is big, and I want to see people trying this one out on day one. Grey Hunters have, there's been a past edition where Grey Hunters have been one of the most fearsome units in the entire game. You and I are reminiscing about a certain 4th edition where Grey Hunters and Rhinos were absolutely terrorizing the tables, and I think this is going to put Grey Hunters right back into the fray. So essentially, first up, a Grey Hunter unit, they can start an action and still are able to shoot. And if you've read the missions, if you know how this is going to work, there are so many more actions in the game. They're fundamental to your scoring ability and your projection into winning or losing the game. In addition, and this is the one that gets me, in the declare battle formation step, you can split a friendly Grey Hunters unit into 2 units of starting strength 5, and that is a game changer.
So all of a sudden, it gives you multiple units that are able to do actions while still contributing to the battle, and also they can go into transports, they can do more jobs than the Grey Hunter unit previously was able to.
Well, it's an intercessor and an assault intercessor merged into one with an extra objective control. They're objective control 3.
So there's 15 for a little sort of 5, which is great.
Look, it's so many times 30 is too much when you have a unit of 10. You're like, I don't need 30. But 15 is fantastic. It flips all the 10 objective control units. So, of course, you have things like Witches, Cabalite Warriors that are going to be running around in Venoms. You have so many enemy 5 model units.
Infiltrator units, that sort of thing.
Correct.
Enemy intercessors.
Yep, so many 5 model units that have 2 objective control, or things like Pathfinders that start off the table with 1 objective control. They are mostly cap out at 10. But then your unit of 5 guys is 15.
And if you really need to, you can just have multiple units converge.
Exactly right. And then something you pointed out as well, it changes the transports that they have available to them. It used to be if you took a unit of 10 Grey Hunters, the only transport that was applicable to them was a repulsor. But now the Impulsor is perfectly able to use and deliver these units for you, flip objectives, do actions while still shooting and taking away objectives is amazing. Is actually amazing. The fact that you could go onto one of your opponent's objectives, take it away, shoot and damage one of their projecting pieces, and then also be taking away the primary score and doing an action at the same time. They like tick, tick, tick.
Just a really, really useful unit.
This is good. They shoot right to the top of one of the best utility units available to Marines.
There's a bunch of great enhancements and stratagems. We're going to look at 2 of the enhancements. The first of them is Eye of the Hunter. This is an ability you can give to a Wolf Guard battle leader. So one of the units you tend to find leading Grey Hunter units. And the unit's range attacks now get Assault, Ignores Cover, and +1 AP.
Kind of everything. They just gave them everything. Ignores cover, so a pseudo +1 to hit, in addition to +1 AP on also all the bolt guns. The bolt guns, bolt guns are pretty good right now. And then assault as well. So theoretically, you're coming out of that impulsor to try and get an angle. You can't advance and do an action, but you'll still be able to get onto that objective, flip it, and then damage the opposing units. And then having ignores cover and +1 AP into the package, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can imagine that going on a Grey Hunter unit is kind of where you'd picture it going. That unit's already getting rerolls on some of those attacks because especially the enemies on objectives and things like that. So this becomes a fairly terrifying unit. So you can imagine multiple small Grey Hunter units doing actions. You have one big one led by your Wolfguard battle leader with all the combos, able to remove almost any enemy scoring unit.
Correct. So the way I see this working and filling into the Space Wolf lexicon is that if you just took out a couple of the utility units in your already freestanding, very strong Space Wolf army and added 2 units of 10 Grey Hunters, you have 4 units of 5 Grey Hunters now. And it's completely reimagined the utility package of them. And they're not just utility units. They will win toe-to-toe battles with most of the other utility units in the game, whilst being more objective control, being able to do actions in various ways. Superb. But we still have a stratagem.
We still got and another enhancement. We got Weaver of Sagas. This is a Wolf Priest upgrade. This effectively allows one of your Wolf Priests to remove Battle Shock from an Adeptus Astartes unit if that unit's within 6, but if it's a Grey Hunters unit, you can do it within 18.
Yeah, so this is quite big, of course. Battle Shock now isn't something that fades off. You have to continually test to be unbattle shocked. In previous editions of the game, it works similar to pinning, where you would have to constantly test to see if you're unpinned. Otherwise, you would fire snapshots and you'd be stuck in place. Battle Shock now persists. Once you are battle shocked, you must test to become earn your unbattle shockedness. And having this as just an ability, it might be big.
But you can imagine the way that this army might work is that you've got multiple units of Grey Hunters across the battlefield, units of 5 or 10. Those units of 5 potentially quite susceptible to battle shock if you've lost 3 of them. So the ability to kind of go, actually, you 2 there, unbattle shocked, immediately 6 OC on that objective, just with 2 models left. It's great.
An Armiger Warglaive is 6 objective control. And, it goes in, it fights, it kills 3, they battle shock, unbattle shock, still contesting the objective.
Yeah. And then last up, we have a stratagem. This is Grizzled Killers, and the unit's melee attacks this time, because Grey Hunters, a great shooting unit. We talked a little bit about their bolt guns, also excellent in melee. They've all got chainsaws, gives them sustained hits or lethal hits.
Yeah, pick your poison, 1 command point. Which one makes more sense to you? Is either lethals or sustained. It's
Are you punching up or punching down?
Yeah,
basically?
correct. Do you need to clear the hordes, or do you need to punch up into something durable?
Yeah, so maybe seeing more Grey Hunters on the battlefield very soon.
I hope so. The models are fantastic, and I think this detachment is really well designed to put them right to the forefront.
Brilliant. Cool. That was Space Wolves. Next up, we've got Blood Angels. Next up, we've got Blood Angels. Blood Angels, obviously the stars of the Armageddon box set. The first attachment we're going to look at is called Legacy of Grace. Adam, what does it do?
So this one is predicated all around your infantry characters, and infantry character units will simply just get +1 to advance and charge rolls. This is one that has a rider saying it can't be used along any further detachment to have the Grace keyword, which of course doesn't mean much yet, might mean some more in the future, but just off, it's Blood Angels. +1 to advance, +1 charge is fantastic.
So your units are already quite fast, right? Yeah. So they've either got jump backs or they're deep striking in. So additions to that advance and charge is great. You're just going to get into combat faster, which is where you want to be.
Exactly right. Of course, you'll be able to be doing this while taking advantage of the hidden mechanics as well to try and keep your units from being shot and invested upon with damage. And so I think this is just a very, very clean, powerful ability for Blood Angels.
Great. Obviously, some enhancements and some stratagems that go with it. Enhancement. The first one I'm going to look at is Blood Boil. This is a returning ability for Blood Angels players. I remember that from earlier codexes. This is a boost to your Psykers. Yes,
so this is for an Adeptus Astartes Psyker model only. The model's psychic attacks will have anti-everything that isn't a monster or vehicle, 5+. So that's anti-infantry, beasts, swarms, etc., 5+, and can re-roll the damage rolls.
So it's just a really useful ability to take out kind of anything, really. That just makes them better at psychic powers.
Exactly right.
And then the stratagem we're going to look at is Aura of the Angel's Grace. This is an ability to give an Adeptus Astartes character unit an invulnerable save. Yes,
so a reactive 5-up invulnerable save in the shooting phase when you've been targeted by your opponent for 1 command point. This is really good on so many units. Essentially everything that isn't a Sanguinary Guard, they already come with a 4-up invulnerable save, but your jump pack intercessors, your death company, everything else is just being like 1 CP, and you'll know when this is good, of course. So it was previously that a 5-up invulnerable save wasn't that impactful on Marine bodies, because you'd have to be AP 3 or better to push them past a 5+ invulnerable save if you were in cover or had access to Armor Contempt. But now, with cover changing to be -1 to hit, things like this ability, I think, are much more powerful.
Yeah, I think armor saves generally won't be as high in the new edition.
Correct.
So anything that gives you better armor saves or that gives you invulnerable saves immediately becomes more useful.
Well, previously, if you were in cover, an AP3 a plasma attack, you would still have a 5-up armor save because you would negative to 1 to it by armor contempt like ability or just being in cover. Whereas now that is just a 6-up. You don't get to have a say unless you have spent a stratagem. Well, what if you wanted to spend a stratagem for armor contempt in one place and then on a different unit have a 5 invulnerable save?
Indeed.
Pretty good.
Next up, we've got the Encarmine Spear Tip. This is a a detachment that boosts the Sanguinary Guard, one of the most powerful melee units in the Blood Angels force.
In the game.
The game. This makes them better.
You get to fall back and do as you please. Yeah, pretty much. Apart from falling back and starting an action, they can do anything else. That's fall back and shoot, fall back and charge on any of your Sanguinary Guard units. Very clean, very powerful.
And they can do both as well, so the shooting tends to be quite powerful. They've got pretty tasty little guns. They can put some Melter in the mix there as well. And obviously, they want to be charging, right? They want to be getting in and getting those bonuses, striking first.
Where this is more powerful is because of the way Fights First has changed, and it's being, default into the active player now. So if you were to stay in combat and have multiple ongoing combats, things can, get a bit messy. So just fall back, re-engage, get Fight First active again, and just domino effect down the line with your Sanguinary Guard.
It makes them very hard to pin down as well, right? Like, they don't want to be in a protracted fight. They want to be kind of picking their targets, choosing the enemies they want to be killing, and moving on, basically.
Yeah.
There's some enhancements. One of them is Shadow of Abomination. This you can give to an Adeptus Astartes jump pack model, and it makes them hit harder.
Yes, this is everything you want as a Blood Angels general. This is just once per game, per battle, per army. At the start of the fight phase, you get +1 damage on your character. Space Marine captains love this one trick, because this will take their once per game, their finest hour ability, which is already once per game, and just dial it up. So damage 3 on your Power Fists and your Thunder Hammers, which already have devastating wounds on the Thunder Hammers, and then you'll get devastating wounds in the finest hour ability with plus extra attacks and now plus damage as well. It's fantastic.
It's a great little combo piece.
Fantastic.
The one moment you really need to shine, you're like, right. It's your moment. Let's go.
Your Space Marine captain will just go one shot. Oh, sorry, apologies. It's jump pack.
Jump pack. So
not the finest hour one in the melee, but still pretty, very, very, very powerful.
Still great. Cool. There's also a stratagem we're going to talk about, which is Blinding Blurs of Vengeance, and this is for Sanguinary Guard, and it gives them stealth. Yes,
so this is another fantastic reactive durability piece, as I mentioned in the previous attachment with the 5 invulnerable save. Stealth on Sanguinary Guard, 5 invulnerable save on Sanguinary Guard, as we said. There's no point, you already have a 4-up. So what do you give them as a reactive strat? You give them stealth. So 1 CP when you target in the shooting phase, just going to be stealth.
Yeah, and this is useful because you have quite small units of them. They tend to kind of jump around, pick on targets of opportunity, quite often find themselves in the middle of nowhere, usually standing over the slain bodies of their foes, but not in cover with lots of guns pointed at them.
This is what you don't want to have happen as a Sanguinary Guard player. As in, you never want your Sanguinary Guard to be traded for one unit. As in, here's my 1 unit of Sanguinary Guard. It's quite expensive, quite powerful. I need it.
Made of gold.
Exactly right, made of gold. There's only like 18 of them still left, in the lore. Charging in, killing 1 unit, theoretically not a high-priced, high-value unit, and then being shot. So stealth, I think, is very important for them to have.
Help keep them alive.
Yeah.
Then last up, we have the other end of the Blood Angel spectrum. This one is all about Death Company. Wrath of the Doomed is the name of the detachment, and it makes your Death Company even scarier.
Yes, this is really interesting. So this has had to go through a bit of a fundamental rework with the changing to Battle Shocks. In the previous edition of the game, you would just choose to be Battle Shocked to get this ability via stratagems and various other things, but I'll read it out verbatim. So when a friendly Death Company unit is selected to make an advance move, you can have use this ability. If you do, that unit takes a D3 plus 1 mortal wounds, but you are able to advance and charge. So you're still able to declare a charge after advancing. Previously, abilities like this made you be Battle Shocked. You would become Battle Shocked and then get a buff like this. But with the change in how impactful Battle Shock can be, as in if you spent a command point and chose to be Battle Shock to get an ability, well, you may never unbattle shock for the rest of the game now if you continue to fail. And so it's been really interesting to see the design of this change. And yes, you're going to take mortal wounds. You have a Feel No Pain built in on your data sheet to mitigate some of those mortal wounds, and then you'll just get the ability.
But generally, you'd rather take a small amount of damage than be battle shocked.
and never have the chance to use a stratagem, never have the chance to score a card, a secondary card, or do an action theoretically if you have the right units nearby to give you objective control. So I think this is a great way of moving this forward into the new rule set.
Yeah, and that kind of leans into what you want the Death Company to do, right? Like, you shouldn't expect them to be alive after turn 2. Their job is to go, right, we're the first wave, we charge in, we bloody ourselves against the enemy army, we remove all the chaff, we might get to some of the juicy stuff behind it, and then the rest of your Blood Angels army kind of goes through after the ruination of the Death Company charge.
This feels correct.
Yeah, it does feel right.
It feels right.
Yeah, there's some great enhancements and some stratagems there as well. One of them is for a Death Company model, which means it's called Instinctive Interception, and they can heroically intervene for -1 CP.
Yeah, one less command point, of course. The Heroic Intervention kind of package has 2 modes, one for 1 CP and a 2 CP mode. The 1 command point mode is to charge into something that has declared a charge. So it's in your opponent's charge phase, they declare a charge.
So you can do that one for free?
Yeah, which is similar to, it's pretty much the same as what people know of now in the game. But then the other one is the spicy one, where you can just charge a unit in your opponent's turn for 2 command points. They have to just be within 6 inches. And the fact that you can do this for 1 command point with a Death Company unit, so you can see how this would work. You would launch your Death Company out, advancing and charging as deep into their lines as possible, and then make them scatter, because if anything is there at the end of their charge phase within 6 inches, your Death Company will just go into them for 1 command
Or you
point.
just move them up behind an objective piece.
Yes.
Stand there, be like, if you move onto this objective, you're now within 6.
Yep.
This guy's going to charge you. That's not a thing you want to happen, right?
I will tell you, I cannot conjure a unit that wants to be charged by Death Company, that's happy about this.
Maybe another Death Company unit.
Yeah, I suppose.
Just have a great time.
Horace. No, Horace. No.
I thought you were.
I thought you were.
One of us is going to have to change. Yeah. And then last up, they've got a stratagem, which is Death Begets Vengeance. They have 3 stratagems, but the one we're going to look at is Death Begets Vengeance. This basically means one of your... sorry, we're going to talk 2 stratagems.
Yeah.
The first one, Death Begets Vengeance, when your Death Company unit is destroyed...
This is
the rest of your army hits them harder.
So essentially, when they destroy one of your Death Company units for 1 command point, you will tag that unit with the hatred keyword. And while a unit is hated by your army, friendly Death Company units will have +1 to wound against that unit for the rest of the game. So you almost want to take big and small units of Death Company in this detachment and actually go and get some killed. Crash them against your opponent's Canis Rex, their Primarch, their Angron, and then, I'm gonna take some wounds off you. You are definitely gonna kill me. I'm Death Company. This is what I wanted anyway. And then for 1 command point, I will get +1 to wound to you with the rest of my Death Company units.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mortal wounds when you advance sort of leans you into going for some big units. So you probably want to have some big units, as you're saying, and then maybe some smaller ones, particularly if you've got an eye on that stratagem.
Yes.
You take your 1 small unit and go, right, what's the thing I really like to kill that unit against that, and then the rest of your big units can kind of converge on it.
What's interesting is there's only a handful of units in the game that 10 Death Company won't just take care of. But those ones are going to be very easy for you to spot. You look at your opponent's list and you're like, +1 to wound will help exclusively against that model and that model. And so therefore your plan starts to formulate. Even though you're Death Company, still a starter. You still got some plans. And then you can crash some units into that, get that +1 to wound going, and you're only going to need it in very specific places, but it's a very good tool to have, because you can't really afford to invest 10 Death Company, most likely with an adjoined character, and have them not do the job. And have them not, get that unit down. And so this is very cool.
And then last up, we've got another stratagem, which is Rage-Fueled Response, and this is a surge move.
Yes, this one is very interesting for Death Company to have. And of course, you already have the ability with one of the enhancements to do Heroic Intervention for less command points. So this is adding another cog to turn in your opponent's psyche about, I have the ability to charge you for cheaper in your turn with the Heroic Intervention enhancement. And this one, it's very straight up and down as a surge move, as people would know as exists in the game right now. 1 command point, your opponent's shooting phase. When a friendly unit of unengaged Death Company has been shot, your unit can make a surge move of D6. Very nice to have.
Yeah, great little ability. Right, that is the Blood Angels. Next up, we have the Dark Angels. Last up, we have the Dark Angels, 3 new detachments to talk about. We're going to start with Dark Flight Pursuit, and that is a detachment all about the Raven Wing.
Yes, the first of the first Space Marine detachments for the Dark Angels. Had to let that one land. But this is for Raven Wing fly units. And you will get Ignor's cover on all of those. So that is quite a few units, quite more than you think. So, of course, there's the 2 Dark Angel specific speeders, that being the Vengeance and the Dark Shroud, the 2 flyer, the aircraft miniatures, but then all the Storm Speeder variants and the new Land Speeder variant that just came out in the box.
So you could do a whole army of those if you wanted to.
You very much could. I very much will.
Obviously, ignores cover immediately very useful. We've talked already about cover being a more useful mechanic to get your units alive than it was previously. -1 to hit is great. The ability to ignore that is obviously going to be very useful.
Absolutely. Then a lot of the speeders that I mentioned also give impactful bonuses and buffs. If you've watched the start of this recording, you heard us talk about the Fulgaris Task Force, which is for Codex compliant Marines, which is also predicated on buffing your speeder units. Now, I think these two will combo together extremely well if you wanted to make a full all-in on the speeder archetype. And I think this is a fantastic point to talk about the new design space for building and list construction, using your detachment points to really build something very interesting you could not do before. Ignores cover is extremely powerful, like I said, and just a brilliant place to be starting from.
Yeah. There's some enhancements and stratagems for this detachment, of course. One of them is an enhancement specifically for the Land Speeder Vengeance. I haven't seen a lot of those on the battlefields recently. Maybe this will change it. This is an upgrade that gives the unit a reroll to the number of attacks the weapon has, and a reroll to any hazard rolls it takes.
Yep. Of course, the Plasma Storm Battery is D6 plus 1 blast, and then having insurance like, roll the 1, don't like that, and whip it into anything else, and then reroll the hazard rolls. They are light vehicles. They don't have a deluge of wounds.
Flying massive plasma cannon.
Correct, and so hurting yourself is never a good thing. So anytime you can avoid that, you're going to feel like a winner.
And then the stratagem we're going to look at for these guys is called We Are Vengeance, and this is, again, an out-of-phase move.
Yes, it is. So this is in your opponent's shooting phase when an enemy unit has targeted a friendly unengaged Ravenwing unit that has shot. That Ravenwing flyer unit can then make a normal move of D3 plus 3. So this is really key once again to keeping your units in the game and moving ahead of the opposing force.
Yeah. Moving on to the Interrogation Conclave, one of the other iconic models within the Dark Angels, of course, the Interrogator Chaplains. We've talked about Chaplains a little bit already. Dark Angels have got their own specific flavour. This is quite a different sort of detachment for Chaplains, boosts them in some different ways. Yeah,
so the Interrogator Chaplains key a lot off battle shock interactions. So in the fight phase, when a friendly Chaplain unit destroys an enemy unit, all enemy units within 6 of that Chaplain unit have to take a battle shock. And then friendly Chaplains also have a following ability where they give -1 leadership within 6 of them. And we've already mentioned many times in different faction focuses and in this one, how much more impactful battle shock can be to the outcome of a game. Not automatically unbattle shocking. And then this is one of the few abilities that I've seen that creates an AoE effect almost. So an area of effect of a battle shock that can cascade. And if things go wrong, can start costing your opponent significant portions of their scoring.
But you can imagine something like a unit of Blade Guard led by a Chaplain right into the heart of the enemy army, kills the thing they're fighting, but usually, even if it's like a light skirmish unit, kill that thing, and then multiple units of the enemy army are battle shock, potentially swinging objectives in your favor.
Yes, so they have to take that battle shock at -1, then you go straight into their command phase, because you just had your turn, you just killed a unit, so then they take a battle shock immediately, which costs them some of their reactive abilities, can cost them the ability to, essentially, secure objectives, and, use offensive or defensive stratagems if they're fighting back against you, and then you roll directly into their command phase, and they haven't had a movement phase to move outside of 6 of the Chaplain, so they're still at -1 when they take that battle shock test. Yep. So you're much more likely to keep that cascading battle shock active.
Some great enhancements and stratagems as well. You've got one called Inescapable Interrogation, and that allows the Chaplain to give ignores cover to the ranged attacks of its unit.
Now, it's very interesting because Chaplains aren't known for usually you think about them as going with a melee unit. This kind of changes the ideology here, and you're much more likely to want to have an Interrogator Chaplain attached to a shooting unit. You could put
Hellblaster, something like that.
Yep, Hellblasters, Stern Guard come to mind as well. Both very good choices, and this is a really interesting way and different way of thinking about a Chaplain.
Yeah, and then last up we've got a stratagem called Exacting Punishment. This is again for the shooting phase or the fight phase. A Chaplain unit can give precision to the attacks of the unit.
This is quite big because it has the shooting phase in it. So it's actually quite rare to get shooting phase precision. Usually it's on things like your sniper-esque characters.
Tend to be not the most high damage weapons, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Usually it's on one shot, low quantity weapons. The fact that you can attach this to just a unit of intercessors who have a deluge of fire. If you're trying to keep a company commander alive, I'm sorry, 1 CP, that guy is not going to survive just 5 intercessors.
But if we talk about like the other units we were mentioning before, you put into the Stern Guard squad and
absolutely.
A Hellblaster unit with precision where you're like,
terrifying.
Oh, I see you've got a Chaos Lord in that unit.
Yes.
Now you don't have a Chaos Lord anymore.
Yeah, what if you didn't? Does your chosen unit still fight and win in combat this turn? If you go into my Inner Circle Companions, my Deathwing Knights, if you do not have that Chaos Lord,
taking out those kind of
let's find
pieces,
out.
Especially trying to particularly pick out enemy characters is almost always useful, right?
Yeah. Well, in addition, you could just have, like you said, with Blade Guard, who have heavy bolt pistols, and if you need to pick out the example I gave, which is the company commander, which is a key, strategic piece for Astra Militarum. 5, the Absolver bolt pistol from the chaplain themselves, and then 3 to 6 heavy bolt pistols might just do it and completely change the outcome of a game.
Yeah. And then moving on, I think this is a very fun detachment. This is, again, the sort of detachment I think we wouldn't have been able to have in previous editions because it's so specifically focused on one aspect of the army. This is a Dark Age arsenal, and it's basically all about plasma guns.
Finally! It's time. We're back. So friendly Adeptus Astartes, Dark Angels, weapons with profile that has plasma in their name are plasma weapon profiles, and they'll all just get +1 strength. So that's where we're starting. We're starting with every plasma thing gets +1 strength. Fantastic breakpoint.
And that's loads of stuff. That's Hellblasters.
Yep.
That's the plasma guns that you get on vehicles.
Yep.
Redemptor Dreadnoughts. I've got some.
Yep.
There's plasma pistols sprinkled around the army. Loads of stuff.
So I'll tell you that a thing happened in the edition we're just leaving where Riptides went from strength 9 to strength 10 on their ion cannon. What if I said a Redemptor gets exactly the same, whereas from strength 9 to strength 10? And with that, strength 9, AP 4, flat 3 damage on that plasma.
It's a really nice breakpoint.
It's such a good breakpoint. And then, of course, we have the Land Speed of Vengeance, which has twin linked, also going to strength 10. That is amazing. I think this is just a fantastic place to start. And it's units, you're playing Dark Angels, you already want to take plasma.
Some other great things thrown into the mix as well. Some enhancements and some stratagems. The enhancement we're going to talk about is called Petition of Stability. This is on an Adeptus Astartes units with plasma, and their plasma weapons have +6 range.
Yes, this is a bit of a game changer to really project and be able to attack into your opponent. I like this, especially on the Vengeances, which you can get a lot closer to your opponent and get the angles to see into their backfield.
I was always thinking you could use this on like a Hellblaster squad and start to use them more like a traditional like Devastator style.
Correct.
You can park them quite far back in your army and still project firepower.
Yeah, so where it's going to be interesting is that if you took this, I would want to stack things in my army that assist with my detection range. And so that the +6 inches comes up more and I can keep my Hellblasters further and further and further back.
So you maybe combine this with some of the Phobos stuff we talked about earlier on.
Yeah, absolutely right. And then all of a sudden, you're shooting from that further away. You're much less likely to be charged and harmed.
Just in case the plasma wasn't already deadly enough, there are some abilities that you can put onto your units through stratagems. One of them is called No Sacrifice Too Great, and that is a stratagem for 1 CP where if your unit has plasma hazardous shooting, which is most of the plasma shooting, those attacks have a further +1 strength.
This is pretty wild, to be honest. So the unit that we haven't mentioned yet that has the plasmas is, of course, the Black Knights. And the Black Knights get so much out of this, it is crazy. Where they go to 3 shots within close range, so they don't need the +6 inch range as much. They got a much more robust movement. They move 12, so they're a lot speedier, a lot faster. Movement characteristic is what I was going for. And getting +1 strength and then another +1 strength. Strength 11 on some of those profiles. It's such a strong breakpoint to hit because of where Greater Demons reside and where Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights,
and you can
big
just choose it.
chassis.
Because this is a stratagem, you've already got +1 for the army. You can go, how much do I need that extra strength?
This is 1 CP +1 to wound. That's what it is, because you're not going to use it unless it hits your breakpoint. Yeah.
I was thinking Inceptors is another very scary unit, right?
Absolutely.
Like dropping in, and all of a sudden they can start punching into things like knights and all sorts of things.
How did I didn't even think of Inceptors. I thought of them the first time I read through it, but wow, on Inceptors, this is a game changer. We have one more to talk about, which is Searing Bursts.
So Searing Burst, this is an ability for a Hellblaster squad. We've talked about Hellblasters already. I think if you're taking Dark Age Arsenal as your detachment or one of your detachments, you're almost certainly having a Hellblaster squad. This effectively is a an ability where if you've shot a Hellblaster Squad into an enemy unit, that enemy unit slows down.
Yes, you will give them -2 move for 1 command point. So not only are you projecting so much damage into units you want to kill, you can split off 1 model and then potentially debuff the unit you don't have an allocation for. Like you've gone through your phase, your shooting phase. Okay, this unit has to shoot here, take care of this, handle this one. This one might get through. I'm not sure I have the damage to get this one. I have to wait and see. And then you get to that activation and you're like, yeah, I'm 1 short on taking care of that unit of Orc Knobs, unit of Orc Boys. It's going to crash into me. Just need to give myself a chance to not make it. And bang, I'm going to do this. One thing we also didn't mention is Azrael as well. He's got a plasma. He's, in my opinion, one of the best things you can put with the Hellblasters. Gives him sustained hits, gives him invulnerable save as well. And then he also gets all the benefits because he is shooting a plasma gun.
Yeah, I mean, some great little combos and abilities in there. I think that -2 move stacks really nicely with some of those abilities we saw earlier, which are the reactive moves.
Yes.
So if you've got your kind of your speeders out front, you're kind of shooting at the enemy with plasma, they're advancing towards you, one of them manages to get through, you slow it down, and you've got a reactive move.
Yes.
All of a sudden, those charge ranges are looking very unlikely.
Exactly. It just becomes not even an option or something you can bank on happening, and puts a lot of doubt into your opponent.
Brilliant. Well, Adam, thank you so much. That was our bumper extra length Space Marine faction focus. We will be back very soon with even more armies from the 41st millennium.